What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Seoul Therapy, the podcast. My name is Daniel.
Daytona.
Today, we will be giving our brief thoughts on the Show Me the Money 10 producer cipher, and we will also be reviewing and going in depth on Sumin and Slom's collaboration album, Miniseries. As usual, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms, and don't forget to give us that 5-star rating. Also, for more contents, please go and follow our socials at soul_therapy, and also please support our page on Patreon at patreon.com/join/soul_therapy. We are literally 2 weeks away from, the first episode of Show Me the Money Season 10. And
Yeah, exactly.
and we cannot forget about the producer cipher, because that's pretty much why we're watching Show Me the Money, and also the artists who are participating. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, to list the team names, we have Code Kunst and Keko, Toil and Yamta, Slom and Zayanti, and Gray and Mino. And so I love the lineup. I was kind of skeptical again at first when we kind of briefly pre-talked about the program and what we thought of the producers. And quite frankly, after watching the cipher, I was pretty much surprised. It blew my expectations because I kind of had my expectations pretty low.
Yeah.
I didn't have it at a really high level because I just thought, okay, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. And surprisingly, it's like I said, it really blew my expectations away. And I will admit, some of the teams really surprised me, especially with Yamta and Toil. I didn't think this was gonna be or I didn't think they were gonna show up big time, but it's they did pretty well. So what are your quick overall thoughts on the cipher? And if you had to pick one, which team cipher did you like the most, or which team convinced you the most?
The ones I liked the most was Yamta and Toil and Keko and Kokunst. I like Toil because he didn't do what he usually does. Like, he had a very interesting, I think, take on like blues and hip hop. Like, it was the guitar laid back was very bluesy, so that was weird. Actually there's an intro on a 2 Chainz album called Saturday something, and it reminded me a lot of that, like the very sparse guitars, a little bit of a noir feel to it. And it suited Yomta well, especially like considering his lyrics, like, which is a stereotypical but still great take on like success, fame, and all the bullshit that he had to go through, and then he's missing his father who's like passed away and stuff like that. So like that lyricism, that kind of sad melody, it really meshed well with the beat. And I think it was a great song,
For sure.
I think that's why he probably released it too.
Later. Oh yeah, I think he was the only one that released the full version.
Yeah, because he also has Skinny Brown featured on it, and Skinny Brown did a good job on that track too. So definitely a great track there. And man, Keko's verse was crazy.
Yeah, like the legend.
Like, to be very honest, like lyrically, he blows the other 3 out of the water. Like, he talks about so much stuff in that verse.
A lot of substance.
Yeah, a lot of substance. Like the financial crisis, like the cryptocurrency boom, and just in general, like it was very aware of like the societal surroundings around it. Like, he doesn't necessarily like bring us to a certain kind of conclusion politically, but it was nice to see a verse that is very aware of what's happening, not just in like a celebrity superstar status, but what it feels like for the average person that is going through like the things we are now. And that was really dope. And the way he like put those words together was amazing. Like his use of metaphors and stuff, like there weren't any like crazy double entendres or something, but really suited to him well. Like it showed him why he's such in a legendary status in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had almost a Jay-Z kind of feel from it.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
it flowed really nicely, and again,
Yeah.
a lot of substance, and I
Yeah,
think
exactly. Like his flow always reminded me of a like Ghostface or a Meek Mill. Like that very
yeah,
energetic, hyped flow.
it
But
is,
the
yeah, for
content he
sure.
had and the way he wrote his lyrics, it reminded me a lot of like Prime Jay-Z, about how like you know how Jay-Z always throws in this kind of like pop culture and
Mm-hmm.
something like some real shit into his lyrics, you know, not
Mm-hmm.
just like wordplay or talking about dealing coke, but he actually talks about the hottest kind of issues of the day into
Mm-hmm.
his lyrics. Albeit it's
Mm-hmm.
not that deep most of the time, but he does it in a very witty way, and that's what Gecko did here. So if you're a fan of Dynamic Duo, or if you just want to like really know what that cipher meant, I suggest you look up the translations
Mm-hmm.
after you like. Papago is always there. Google Translate is there too. So yeah, definitely like look at the lyrics for yourself. Like that's why people are so head over heels in Korea about Keiko's verse. And granted, like Kokun's beat wasn't that amazing. Like he
No,
did what he always did.
yeah, it's
Like
a Cocoon's beat, you know,
yeah, like it just feels like a Kokun's beat, but it's far from his best beat. But
for sure.
like that kind of subdued atmosphere, I think, really highlighted what Gecko was doing on that track.
Mm-hmm.
Because if like the beat was too extravagant or too layered, like the message would probably not flown across.
For sure, yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like especially with that kind of heavy East Coast style of hard ass rhyming. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, if you look at East Coast records, the great thing about it is the beat is not that, what do you call it, in your face.
Yeah.
Like unlike the southern stuff and the west coast stuff, like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it gives the rapper like room to breathe, you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So yeah, and I think in hip hop, the balance between a beat and the rapper is very important. Like
Exactly.
in the age of Playboy Cardi, maybe the art is kind of lost in a sense, but it's great to hear like a rapper really taking presence on a track.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for that to happen, the producer kind of sometimes has to kind of lay back a little, you know? And
Yeah, for sure. I
that's
definitely
what
agree
Gongos
with
did here. Yeah.
exactly. I think that
Mm.
was one of the big highlights. But for me personally, I love the Slom and Zion T one. I
Mm.
thought
Mm.
again, I really love the way
Mm.
Slom composes his beats. You know, it's very
Yeah.
subtle, it's grounded, but at the same time,
Mm.
there is this mainstream feel to his beats. And I
Mm.
think with the way Zion
Mm.
T wrote on the beat, you know, the way he sang sang through the beat, I just thought it
Mm.
was a perfect compliment. And
Yeah.
I think that those two are gonna be a keep an
Mm.
eye out, kind of like a
Mm.
watch, you know, team, because
Mm.
I'm just so curious on what road they're gonna take as the show
Mm.
progresses, you know. Because granted, I love the other teams
Yeah.
ciphers, but for some
Mm.
reason, Zion T's and Slom's really captured my
Mm.
attention the most.
Mm.
I don't know if it was the chorus or his verses, but it just
Mm.
didn't seem like an R&B song. It actually seemed
Yeah.
something much more, maybe like an
It
independent neo kind of R&B.
like it felt very neo soul. Like
It did, yeah, for sure.
rather than like focusing on a grounded melody, like because
Mhm.
this is actually a problem for me, like not in the sense that Storm Anxiety does a bad thing, but a lot of times like there are a lot of neo soul artists out there,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
like if you really dig into it, there are a lot of neo soul artists out there, but the ones who make it into some sort of fame, not like superstar status, but no, like but um even like minimal like indie exposure, like
Yeah,
I think neo soul is a very tricky genre to
it
work
is.
on because
Mhm.
it's R&B, but its main focus isn't melody in my opinion. Like it's
Mhm.
like that catching like lightning in a bottle kind of quality. Yeah, you need to have a grounded melody, but it shouldn't sound like a grounded melody kind of thing. You're more into the
Yeah.
groove, and unless like you have a very distinct voice, or you really have a formula of yourself that separates you from your peers. Like it's one of those genres that can really end up becoming very bland.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is not good neo soul. Like good neo soul isn't bland. It's entertaining but kind of goofy at the same time.
Exactly.
And Zion T is basically the king of doing that in Korea.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
His melodies are not like they're not stereotypical melodies. Like they're not typical melodies. Like if someone else sang it, it would have sounded like shit, but he makes it work because his voice is very distinct, and the way he manipulates his vocals is like it kind of maximizes the subtlety of small chord progressions. Like there's not much difference in range, but he makes that small range work by being so dynamic.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I did like it, but I prefer his last season Cypher because
yeah, for sure. The last one seemed a lot more him.
Yeah, and when I go for producer ciphers, I don't want theatrics. Kind of. I just want to see them perform. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, and his ciphers, like with all the table settings and stuff, I know it's creative. It was just not what I quite wanted. You know?
Yeah.
Because the other performers were there just to rap, or in Yomta's case, kind of sing and rap at the same time. But it felt very like a cipher. But Zion T and Slom felt kind of artificial to me. It was a bit too much, like the settings and stuff. And what he was talking, like what he was saying about on the beat, I think the last season's was better. Although I don't quite remember it, like because this song was about like complaining a bit about his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that just he's tired or something. Which is not necessarily bad, but after what Yomta and Gecko did, it sounded kind of mid, you know? Like
for
musically it's creative. Lyrically it was a bad example. Not because it was actually bad, because it was comparatively very lackluster. And it's similar for Mino's case as well.
Yeah, so hopefully we are in for a really big treat with this 10th season. So
I mean, it was still like overall, I know I sounded kind of I ended on a bad note. I'm not saying that they were objectively bad. This was a good cipher anyway.
It was
just one person's outclassed the other so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, moving on to our main topic for the day, in our previous episode, we did have like a mini album review session, but for hip hop albums. And, we can't just only talk about hip hop, right? Because we're all about Korean R&B as well, because, I feel like they're slowly gaining traction as well. And I feel like being able to put the spotlight on the Korean R&B scene as well with, album reviews, I think it's really important. And thankfully, we were able to get Slom and Sumin's collaboration album Miniseries that dropped yesterday. And my goodness, this album was wow. I mean, you know me, man. This album was fire. It had a lot of soul. It had a lot of heart. There was a lot of care put into the album. And and while Sumin, I would say she doesn't have like those powerful vocals. I would compare her to, I know this is a big statement, but I would actually compare her to like a Korean Erykah Badu. She reminds me of
you're biting off more than you can chew.
No, like she just reminds me of, that soul, that kind of like that neo soul vibe, and for some reason it just reminds me of
what
Erykah
you're talking
Badu.
about though.
Yeah, and I just love the blending between her and Slom's. Again, Slom's beats are just, it's unique. It's him. These beats are totally him, and I love that about this album, because he doesn't take no for an answer, but rather he uses all of his creative mind into this album, and it just seems like it's well put together. I just feel like Slom is this producer who has like a signature sound. Like I don't think you can make this type of sound unless you're Slom.
Yeah.
he has like this distinct sound. You know when what do you call
Yeah,
it?
it's a very warm flavor kind
Yeah,
of.
it's warm, but also you know how a lot of producers have their own like style of like kicks, snares, and hi-hats and stuff.
Yeah,
Slom has like a signature kick in his drums.
yeah, he really does. It's that subtle kind of not in your face kind of, what do you call it? A very, well, not bland. That's a bad negative word.
No,
The
it's
good.
not bland.
It's more like a very soft kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that relaxing kind of kick.
exactly. And
Yeah.
like you said, there's a lot of warmth, and I can definitely
Mm,
feel that with his beats
mm,
because it's definitely light, but also at the same time,
mm.
it can be pretty aggressive, but not to the
Yeah,
point where it gets
exactly.
drowned out, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a 10 track album. And
Mm.
honestly, this album was I almost gave it a 10 out of 10, but
No. Wow.
I get, I get,
That's high.
I gave it a 9 out of 10 because
Yeah.
there was only one track. Maybe it just felt kind of repetitive, which
Mm-hmm.
was,
I have my
uh,
notes here too. Wait a minute.
I would say it was track 5. 어떻게
Mm.
될 것 같아? What do you think?
Yeah.
That honestly, that one was cool. I don't think
Mm.
it needed to be there, but overall, there
Mm.
were so many tracks, especially 여기저기,
Mm.
track number 4. That gave me like a house vibe. It sounded
Yeah,
like
it
a
had a
house.
very bubbly synth line
Yeah, it
and
sounded like a
a
house
very
song.
dancey rhythm as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no complex sounds. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
typical 80s, 90s house music, and it specifically reminded me of a house music maker, Frankie Knuckles. I don't know if you ever heard of
Mm.
Frankie Knuckles, but
No, I
he
did.
had
Yeah.
he has an album called In the Mix, and he has
Mm.
a track in there called Right Thing. And if you listen to
Mm.
it, it sounds similar. Obviously,
Mm.
the song is different, but in terms
Mm.
of the atmosphere and the tone and the vibe, in many ways it's similar. And I just love that about that track. It's just a simple
Yeah.
house song.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like this reminded me, like if we're going for a more mainstream kind of
Hmm.
comparison, this reminded me kind of a less experimental version of Daft Punk's recent record before, like Random Access Memories, and
Yeah.
it had
Oh
that kind
yeah.
of feel. Yeah,
It
it really
did. It
did
did really did.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because like this album is a kind of those kind of albums where the beats are kind of programmed, but it doesn't
Mm.
sound like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can hear that the producer did his or her best. In this case, it's a him, which is Slom. Like Slom really did try to make this sound as organic as possible. And of course, I think a lot, kind of a substantial part of this album was probably live recorded.
Mm.
I think so because I'm not sure if I remember the credits. Probably, let me just quickly look it up. Like there's like bass players and this just thing
Yeah,
and stuff.
I feel like in a lot of like recording sessions with Slom, I think he prefers to do a lot of live instrumentations. It
Yeah,
just
I
seems like
wouldn't.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that might be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And it doesn't sound like a
let's
live instrumentation. It actually just sounds like
see right here. All vocals mixed by Sumin. All instruments mixed by Slom. All chorus by Sumin. Vocal recorded by Sumin. Instruments recorded by Slom. Mastered
yeah.
by Najam Zoo at Wormwood Hill Studio. Maybe Slom played this or programmed this. I have no idea looking at these credits because there aren't exactly session men like other session men recorded here. So
I mean, he's a
yeah,
talented producer, so I
I
wouldn't
think
be
this might all be
surprised.
programmed actually if this is the case. Slom did a really like what I like about Slom beats is that usually when you go for these kind of this kind of sound, this fun, catchy, like warm sound, it's usually very tacky.
Yeah. For sure.
Because like you know what they're going for usually.
Yeah.
Like usually when you hear this kind of sound, you know what they're going for, and sometimes it's very low hanging fruit. Sometimes this like 80s nostalgia, like a lot of the like this trope is abused by pop artists in a sense. Like for example, if there's a pop artist that did something completely different and they're looking for like image transition, hey, let's do the 80s retro shit. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what's happening in mainstream pop a lot right now.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like when I hear that an album has that kind of flavor, like I'm half because usually it's really good or really fucking sucks.
Mm.
Like you either go really wrong or really right when you're going retro. That's my take on the retro genre. Like you're
For
either
sure.
good or you're fucking terrible. And this was fucking good. Like because usually if it's tacky, like you have the classic 80s synth line and you slap on a drum beat with some driving bass and that's it. But this album is actually very instrumentally kind of lush. Like there's good details in the beats and like how the song progresses. There's lots of breakdowns.
Yeah.
You know that there's
for
kind of
sure.
a little bit of experimentation going on with vocal chops and stuff. Like sometimes you hear like very slight traces of auto-tune. And maybe I'm wrong. And there's some like weird vocal effects on Sumin's stuff stuff too. And what I liked, and not exactly liked, what I was surprised about this album is I know you pulled out the Erykah Badu comparisons, which I think is too much, but I mean it's Badu, she's a fucking legend. So
of course.
It's
just the tone, kind of like the aura.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I kind of viewed Sumin more like a Janelle Monáe kind of character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, of course, her vocal style is vastly different. Like
for sure,
Janelle Monáe rarely uses falsettos from what I remember. I mean, she does, of course, but Sumin is more not as rich in vocal tone as a Janelle Monáe is, in my opinion. But which kind of was a little bit of a turnoff for me because I really liked her album. Your Home, I think it was. And that is a very experimental kind of blend of sounds.
For sure.
But what I took most away from that album was not Sumin's singing or the melodies, it was the production. So I was kind of like, I still liked it. I think it's great. But I just didn't see where Sumin was going to go next, or I wasn't sure if I could recommend this to anyone. Because like vocally it wasn't that much of a strong album in my opinion.
Okay.
But with this album, like she's way more dynamic on the vocals.
Yeah.
In a sense, because Your Home was such an experimental take, I think this miniseries album is kind of a back to basics thing.
Yeah.
Like she's singing on this, like she like sang kind of singing, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like she's transitioning between falsettos and just normal vocals like nothing. Like in the evening, like even in the first track, like maybe this is my memory working the wrong way, but she never kind of struck me as kind of a power vocalist kind of thing, but she really pulled it off here. And like with the whole synths coming in the first track, like Shingiru, like coming on the synths, and there's these refrains and outer vocals are fucking heavenly. So like, maybe she's doing something really different with this, and she's going back to a little bit more of a standard style, a more organic brand of R&B instead of like electronic, and which is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just the way it is. But I think this gave her more room to manipulate with vocal chops. Yeah, so it's like, wow, this is just if in the past when I listened to Sumi's songs, it was more like, that was really interesting. Like this is like, yeah, that was fucking good kind of thing, you know? So
for sure.
Yeah, I prefer this album because Slom's like, it's not like Slom had a very like typical approach to this album either though, you know, like although the palettes like he uses is definitely 80s influence, like there's a lot of different tempos on this album. Some weird vocal effects and sound effects. Like there's a cricket sound, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of thing in the track Trap.
There's definitely a lot of unique sounds.
Yeah, no, like there's
album.
a crazy like kind of beat switch on that track too. Like it really just. Yeah,
that one was a great song. I actually wrote that down because in the beginning it had like this very electronic-y ambient kind of sound, and I was like, where is this gonna go? And then all of a
And then
sudden you
they,
hear this beat switch.
yeah, this 808 pops out of nowhere, and there's a trap beat right there, and then like, huh,
Exactly.
that's really weird. Maybe that's why they named it trap.
Yeah, and
And
I love how the beat is not too bogged down to
yeah,
the point where it's like,
mm,
oh, okay, it's another typical trap beat, but
yeah,
it's a signature Slom trap sound,
yeah,
which I
exactly.
was very thankful for, because a lot of times I
Mm.
feel producers can get lost and they can get watered down too many
Yeah,
times
either
where
they come too monotone or just too all
yeah,
over the place. And Slom knows how to strike a balance. Like,
that's the
um,
thing. That's the
yeah,
thing with Slom. His balance is like his
mm,
main ingredient. Like he just
mm-hmm,
knows. And
mm-hmm,
that's what leads me to the next song, which is 한 잔의 추억,
mm.
the final song. That one gave me a lot of UK garage.
Ah, yeah, I
Yeah,
can see
like
that.
that kind of like two-step kind of shuffle with
Yeah,
like a little bit of the drum breaks, and it reminded
mm,
me a lot of MJ Cole, and
mm,
he's known for a lot of UK garage songs. So
mm.
I just love how they ended that song with a another kind of upbeat dance, kind of like just like the house song that I mentioned
Yeah,
earlier. But this one brought in a lot of like that UK garage, and I feel like the
mm,
UK garage, genre kind of had died down. We
mm,
don't really hear a lot of the UK garage style anymore. But I feel like
mm,
Slom, like we
mm.
mentioned, how he's so dynamic with the way he composes his
Yeah,
beats, the types of beats he chooses for
yeah.
the artist, and I thought this one just kind of brought back that nostalgia of the UK garage, and I
Yeah, it's
really dig
like
that.
it's kind of like he's so unassuming, Slow.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he posts it like this. It's kind of cool to see. And there's so many things to talk about this record. I Sumin's vocals are way better, and the songs are quite topical, which is another thing I
Yeah.
liked. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just blatant love songs like
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. Like this is actually like it really plays out like a mini series in a sense. Like
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
if you think about it, you go from it's kind of a certain narrative where you see a certain relationship start and then you see a relationship kind of fail as it
Yeah.
progresses, the album progresses.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at the like if when you look at the introduction in the streaming site, there's like descriptions of the album, right?
Yeah.
And the description says that this is actually kind of planned as a miniseries drama. At first when I looked
Interesting.
at it, like, I thought they were actually making a drama, but
Oh,
I think
interesting.
that was just a play on words kind of thing. Like they wrote it as if this miniseries is not an album. They wrote it as if it's an actual TV show. So,
Mm.
so this and as if Slom and Sumin is like the protagonists of the series, of a
Mm-hmm.
romance kind of TV show. Oh, look, if they are actually lovers, I'm sorry I didn't know.
Mm.
But I think that was if they're not, this is the concept of the album. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like even like this is a very small detail, but the last song kind of Sumin says Slom's name out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like and you're hearing that, yeah, maybe it's actually like this album had me wondering if they are actually lovers or not. So
Mm.
I think it means the concept is very convincing if it's not. So it was great execution. And what else is there?
Was there like a personal favorite from that album
Ah,
that you really liked?
I really liked the first track. Like
Oh
that
yeah,
was what
Shingido was
kind of
really
sucked me
good.
in. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
sucked me in because
Yeah.
usually like if the first song is like mellow, you're like, I'm not sure, but like this hits you out of the gate, which is
It
great.
does.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of good albums with mellow intros, but
For sure.
usually I prefer some animated stuff rather than the starting slow kind of thing. And Trap was great because of how unpredictable it was,
For sure.
and I liked 곤란한 노래 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like the lyrics on that because it wasn't merely like it was a dance jam for people who can't dance. Like if you look at the
Interesting.
lyric,
Okay.
yeah, if you look at the lyrics, like she knows that she can't fucking dance, but she's kind of confident in the sense that even though she can't dance, it will still make her partner kind of um ironically in an awkward position because the person she's talking about is still going to get to love her kind of thing. So it's a classic kind of flip. Like for example, like if you are heard the E-Sense's Anecdote, there's a song called Writer's Block.
Yeah, great
Yeah,
song.
and that song writes about writer's block.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it. Like how are you so talented that you're actually writing about writer's block? Because if you have writer's block, you wouldn't be able to write about writer's block, but you still managed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. So this is in a sense not exactly the same, but kind of similar in the sense that you're a fucking horrible dancer, but you actually managed to flip that and kind of wrote a song about not being a bad dancer, but still being kind of sexy as fuck. And that was creative writing, and not only lyrically but musically, it was a very potent track too because it has this great bass line. Like,
oh yeah, the bass line was insane.
It reminded me a lot of D'Angelo stuff or Jay Dilla stuff, and
for sure.
Yeah, and from what I know, Jay Dilla was actually a pretty big influence for this because I ran into a Melon interview they did with the streaming service Melon, and they had kind of a playlist of what the music that inspired them to make this album. Yeah, I don't remember it all, but you look it up if you have to. It won't be hard to find. And there's I think it was Think Twice by Jay Dilla on that.
Great song.
Yeah. That
Okay,
Welcome to Detroit album is fucking fire. This might be the podcaster in me talking, the reviewer in me talking, but don't shoot me down for this. I reviewed with Welcome to Detroit because it was like the 25th anniversary or something on Hip Hop Leia, and ever since I did that review, somehow the like this is completely out of the blue. This is completely in my head, but once I did that review, there's many artists in the Korean scenes that somehow I don't know why, but it keep popping up in interviews.
Oh, interesting.
Like of course, like they already knew about those albums. Of course, like if you're a professional musician, you can't not know about that album, right? But I don't know. Maybe I influenced them to listen to it again or something.
Who knows? Like, because people can forget easily, and so it
this
could
is
be a
the
good
reviewer
reminder.
In me talking. I know
for sure.
It's just a whole kind of stupid ass imagination here stuff going on. But ever since I reviewed that album for Hip Hop Player, it's weird how many hip hop musicians are mentioning that album. PJ mentioned it before too. I'm like, really? Like,
that's great. But
nah, this is like the Hennessy talking or something.
Nah, you're good. For me though, I really
anyway, Dilla feels all over this album. Yeah.
I just feel like the way they structured the album, the way they put the songs in like by track, I thought it was pretty surprising because I loved how Shingiru was the first track because like it gave this kind of like an introduction as to the type of album you're going to be getting. You know, it has a blend of multiple. It has a blend of multiple genres infused in Shingiru. But also, if you take a listen to track number 6, "Ooh," this song definitely gives you more of that electronic, ambient kind of experimental because there's no actual vocals, but rather you hear the backing vocals from Sumin, and the song makes it a lot more dreamy, kind of spacey, and I thought it was And I thought it was a perfect song to put in the middle of the album because it allows the album to breathe. I just thought it allowed to, because you know how like the previous tracks were like kind of upbeat and stuff, and you want a song in the middle where you kind of want the album to breathe a little bit before you start going back into the kind of like the upbeat and the
what do you call it? I think it was a great piece for sure. Like that track because and a little bit of context here for the foreign listeners here. The title has a very weird symbol on it, right?
Yeah.
For people who don't know Korean, like that's a vowel in Korean. U, it means u. It's basically you pronounce it the way you do WOO. The thing about that vowel is that a lot of people use it as an emoji. For it means tears.
Okay.
If you're crying, you write two oohs in advance, and it feels like tears coming out of your out of your eyes. It looks like it. So when you're saying like you're sad or something, it's like people use it a lot as an emoji of someone crying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you look at the narrative, 어떻게 될 것 같아 is basically a breakup kind of on the horizon kind of song. So ooh is actually a song that signifies the breakup. And the next song is 망가진 사이, which means a broken relationship. So there's a narrative progression at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely a lot of storytelling. So
yeah. So 어떻게 될 것 같아, like that track, on that track they're talking about whether they're going to break up or not, and then on the ooh track it's kind of a figured like a literal a figurative take, a metaphorical take on the breakup, and 망가진 사이 is the aftermath of that. So narratively it works perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm not my problem with that track is it's a great track, first of all. Like instrumentally, it's beautifully constructed. It seriously is. And this is just a general, like, it's my problem, not Sumin and Slom's. It's like, maybe you could have actually constructed a song instead of a sound collage.
Yeah.
Like, because Sumin is so lyrically on point. It's not like mind blowing, like or anything. It's not like super poetic or anything. But she has a real lyrical focus on here. And maybe she could have actually written a song about it, a proper lyric focused song about it. So
I hear you. Yeah, it can go both ways. I just thought it was clever because it kind of allowed the album to breathe a lot more before.
Yeah, I think
the
makes
album
sense.
continued. But I definitely hear what you're saying. You could definitely add some more vocals to it, like with some actual lyrics.
Besides, like this isn't Sumin's album that is produced by Slom. This is a Sumin and Slom crossover,
collaboration,
right?
yeah.
So you have to give like room for Slom to do what he wants to. And
exactly.
I think because of that collaborative nature, I think this track actually, I mean, if you think about it, like maybe like the actual breakup itself, it's better to express yourself without words so that it comes across like almost in a metaphysical sense. That kind of sentence. I mean, I can totally see what they're doing, and I think it still has merit. I just prefer something more physical, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Something more material, but it was still a great track. Yeah. That was not exactly the track I had a problem with. The track I had a problem with was actually, I think it was, oh man, I think I kind of forgot. Actually, it was the track right after that, I think. 망가진 사이.
Okay.
Look, I'm looking at the notes right now, and the other tracks have like 3 to 5 lines, but this has just 1. I think it was just uninteresting comparatively. Like, it's a slow jam.
Okay.
There's some whispered vocals on it, I think, but
okay.
After all the dynamic stuff I heard, I guess the whisper kind of chants, the subdued vocals just didn't do it for me.
For sure.
And I think that was the case here. It was still a perfectly fine song.
It just didn't suit your taste.
Nah, it's not that I hate songs that have whisper chants anyway. It's more like it just pales in comparison with the other tracks, I think. Like,
I hear you.
Music is relative. Like, music really is. And
of course,
the way I process music is usually on an album scale. Like, some songs I normally will fucking hate, I get to like it once it's placed properly in the track list. Like, there are lots of cases like that. And after years of listening to stuff like stuff in that way, it kind of made me into a standardless fuck. You know what I mean?
Nah, don't say that.
I mean, in a sense, because when people ask me what kind of music I like, I really don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a tough question. And, it's like you can't just give a straight answer because obviously there's different.
I I really don't fucking know. Like,
No, exactly. It's like you can't just be like, "Oh, I like this
yeah.
song" right away. You got to
So
think,
everything
man.
is like what I'm trying to come across here is like everything is relative.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
there are plenty of quiet albums I like. It's just
For
like
sure.
maybe it kind of killed the mood for me in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was such on a great run, and after like such a more ambient kind of interlude, I wanted the track list to kind of just pick up again
Mm-hmm.
right away. But if
For
you look
sure.
at the narrative, that is kind of a too much of an offer. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because I mean, after you just like in the narrative of the album, you just broke up, so I guess you can't be upbeat right away.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just wanted something more attention grabbing.
No, for sure. I think it's all
Yeah.
subjective. Art is
Mm-hmm.
subjective, and
Yeah.
you know, we all have our
Mm.
personal preferences. So, I mean, we
Yeah.
just hope we're excited for Slom's career, and I think this was a great step
Exactly.
into who Slom really is, because I think this is
Mm.
he had other projects he made in the past, but it wasn't
Yeah.
as big. But I think this is really a step
Yeah.
into
I think he's
who he
really
is as a
trying.
character,
Yeah.
as
I
a
think
producer.
he got the keys in his ignition now.
Exactly.
Like
And I think
he's firing up.
exactly. And I think
Mm.
collaborating with Sumin as a start, I think it's a great collaboration. And,
Yeah.
you know, we are definitely excited for his career. So as we begin to slowly wrap up our show, as usual, any artist or tracks that you're currently listening to and would like to share or recommend to our
Yeah.
listeners?
Since we talked about the Sumin and Slom album a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just quickly shout out Sumin's last album, Your Home. I wouldn't say it
Yeah.
was as good as this, but it's definitely more experimental. So
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will dig that, like
For sure.
especially if you're into industrial and stuff like that. So check that out. So my proposition would be. Mm, damn. You know what? Unofficial Boy actually dropped another album.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Did I talk about this last podcast?
No.
No, I didn't. Yeah. Unofficial Boy, I know like he has already dropped an album earlier this year in collaboration with producer CYPHER, but this is his actual like standard album.
Yeah.
This is the third studio album by Yuzuri by Unofficial Boy, and he made
Wow.
up a company, and he's starting a company actually. He
Yeah.
started a label called Ackerman.
Mm-hmm.
And the album is titled Ackerman as well.
Mm-hmm.
He does what he usually does on this album, which means it's fucking great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Like he's on fire these days. Like
He is. He really
I
is.
think he put out like in a span of 2 years, didn't he? Like if like 3
He
albums
put
or
out a
something.
lot of music. Yeah, he put out a lot of music.
Yeah, he put out 3 albums of his own, and he had a crew compilation about 2 of them or something.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
It was like
2
4
crew
tracks.
EPs or something. Yeah, that was the DOG compilation. And then there's the DOG album called Beware of the Dog that he dropped again, like as a part of a crew compilation. So he's everywhere right now.
Yeah, he's going
And
off.
He has one of the most refreshing singing rap takes I ever had in Korean hip hop in a long time. Like
Nice.
he was that, like, I think Unofficial Boy is like the natural progression of what CJam like gave a blueprint towards.
Mm-hmm.
Like autotune rap, singing rap, it's just all in the end of the day, it's about rhyming. And
Yeah.
if you rhyme properly, that shit sounds clean and nice. And
Exactly.
Izune understands that perfectly. So like this is I think he is really like the standard of what Korean singing rap is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Like that kind of Travis Young Thug kind of style. He nails it right here. And he has a very creative take on it as well. Like his productions are not like grounded in Atlanta trap only. Like he tries different stuff with his productions as well.
For sure.
So definitely check out the Ackerman album. And there's a track called Flow on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that has gorgeous harmonies on it as well. Like the vocal harmonies on that shit is crazy too.
For sure. So for me, I chose Ilsun's Firepower, and it was from his new album called Endless Summer. And this is just a huge throwback to Ilsun's old stuff.
Yeah.
You know, And I think this is his new way of saying, okay, I'm back, but also I'm finding my roots again, my identity
Yeah.
from the underground scene. And I just love
Yeah.
how there was a lot of tropical balance, but also maintaining his roots and his identity as a kind of like the strong rapper that we all
Yeah,
know.
especially with the
Ilson
last
as.
mixtape too. Like
Exactly.
he's putting out a lot of work too. Yeah.
He's putting on a lot of work as well. So definitely go check out Firepower. It's definitely one of his throwbacks.
Yeah, it's great.
Like his old
It's
stuff.
fucking
So
great. Yeah.
exactly. So well, that's all the time we have for today. But please do comment and let us know what you think of today's topic. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please go and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. And please give us that 5-star rating. If you want more K-hip hop contents, go check out Daytona's Instagram at myk_Daytona for K-hip hop album reviews, and also follow our social media page at Seoul_Therapy. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time. Peace.
See you guys next time, man.